So this is a series I want to try out, see if I can stick with it. It's gonna be called Let's Talk. Let's talk about. Well, I'll see what I come up with the title. But essentially, I just want to talk about anything really that is to my interest: music, movies, wrestling, life, all the sorts. First, I want to talk about music. Why? Why I got into music. So let's talk about, everything we like about music. So how was I exposed to music? I was about 8, 9, 10 years old. I've always, music has always been around in my life. When family listens to music, friends, wherever you go, Latino household families, always throwing family parties. Music's always been around me, but I didn't really have that much of an interest when I was a kid. It was just there. As I was growing older, I want to say around the time I was I want to say 9, 10 years old, is when I started to kind of get a feel and a liking for music and understanding why people like music. I wasn't completely into it yet, but I was like, I can hear why people like music, and I was like, there's probably maybe a song or two that I did enjoy, but I never sought out. I remember playing this game called RuneScape, and with my cousin, and there was they used to do how RuneScape montage videos, they would have songs, and I believe it was a montage video where they had my first exposure to music that I liked was Bullet for My Valentine. Well, actually, before Bullet for My Valentine. Can't remember when exactly, but okay, we're gonna say it's Bullet. Bullet had their song "Hand of Blood." Someone put their song on a video. I remember my cousin showing me it, and he's like, "Hey, Rob, you might like this song. Check it out. Let's listen." And I remember he had the music video itself pulled up because he had found the music video. We were watching it together, and I saw the music video for Hand of Blood. How it starts off with the fade in, and then the cool dual guitar intro lead thing, and seeing the whole video, listening to it the whole way through, I was like, whoa, these guys are cool. They're playing heavy metal music, and the look is really cool. And at the time, this was '07, so I was definitely 11. I think I was 10 or 11 years old. Yeah. And we were listening to it, and I really liked it. I thought it was really cool, the whole image, the music, the sound, and everything. I would sometimes put it go to YouTube and put the song on just to listen to sometimes. I remember finding another RuneScape video where their song, I didn't know it was their song at the time until I searched deeper, but All These Things, which is one of my favorite songs one of my top favorite songs from Bullet for My Valentine. And I forget what the video was about, but they had that song on there, and I remember listening to it and how emotional it felt to me, and how it kind of touched me in a way I didn't understand or know at the time, and how it can make me feel. And I watched the music video too for that one, and just seeing the work done and listening to the music and how everything was coming together, I was starting to really fall for this band. But they weren't the first band I actually started listening to. My first band was Linkin Park. My dad was watching the Transformers movie, and as the movie was finishing, he called me into the living room. He's like, "Hey, Rob, check this song. I think you might like it." And What I've Done, which was the song on Transformers, was playing. I was listening to it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I do like this. What's the song called? Who's it by?" I think it showed in the credits at some point. It was Linkin Park, What I've Done, and I wanted to seek it out. So I started to do a deeper dive into Linkin Park, and I would just fall in love with the band more. Listen to more of the songs, seek out more of their music, see their music videos. I was very big into the music videos. I liked having the visual aspect of listening to music while you're watching something. That is my not my first exposure. That's the first band. Linkin Park is the first band that I got into. Bullet would be like the first band like I really start to like fall in love with. What really there's two other things that got me into music as well. The first one is that my dad would always be playing. My dad is of the '80s. You know, the '80s was his time. You know, he grew up in the '80s as a teen, early adulthood. He just listened to all the the glam bands, Motley Crue, Poison, Cinderella, Rat, all those bands, White Snake, and he's always playing them. He was always listening to them and watching it on I believe MTV was still playing it, or some show, VH1, forget. But he would always be watching the music videos too on TV, and I would watch it sometimes with him, and passing by, and I remember how cool, like, it was. They were like they were rock stars. They had the giant hair, the cool clothes, the sick guitar solos, the music, the looks, and everything. I just thought that was cool. As a 9, 10-year-old, you think that's cool, and I still think it's pretty cool, that look. Even though some people have their opinions, I still think it's cool. That was another like thing I thought that got me into it. And then the last thing that really got me into music and really wanted to play guitar was Guitar Hero 3. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are the same way, but my same cousin who showed me the Bullet from Valentine, he had gotten Guitar Hero 3 for, I think, his birthday or a gift or something. I can't remember, but he had gotten it, and he invited me and my brother to over to the house to play, and we started playing, and I immediately just like fell in love with just playing the game, the music, how much fun we had. We would always try to battle each other, and we would just spend hours and hours just playing Guitar Hero. As anyone else that's ever played, you know how and understand how much fun it is to play. The songs that like you hear on there, and that you may be inspired to play a real guitar, which I got Guitar Hero 3 for Christmas that year in '07. I kept playing it every day, nonstop, all the time. Eventually, I asked my parents that I wanted to play a real guitar, which I still have my very first guitar to this day. Ibanez Jumpstart. It works. I could still plug it in. It used to have issues, but I think the issue resolved its own. But it still works. Tone knob works. Volume knob. The clicker. I lost the top part, but whatever. Whammy bar. I don't have a whammy anymore. I think I can't find it. But it still works. Just a little cleanup here and there. I put some stickers on it, as anyone does with their guitars. That's the back side. Really good food. If you're ever in Asbury Park, you go to Mogo. They have really good food. It's a Korean-Mexican fusion place. That is my very first guitar, and I really enjoyed playing guitar like so much that I really wanted to write my own music, be inspired by the people I was listening to, Linkin Park, Bullet from Valentine, and the music that I was just listening to a lot then. From there, I would just practice pretty much every single day. I would pick up the guitar and just play, just because I had a lot of fun. I would write my own songs, they were just like a bunch of just random riffs just thrown together. I called them songs, just like anyone does when they first playing. But I loved it, I loved playing. I loved just writing, just making music, and playing my favorite songs. No matter how bad I was, I had fun. I wanted to play music and make music. From there, I was hooked. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a guitar player, musician, artist. The whole thing, it was my dream, and I can say it's still my dream. I do have my own band, my own studio. I'm making music, and I just want to see how far I can take it. I want to live out the dream. Some of my favorites that I'll talk about, like different time periods, I guess. From the beginning, it was Bullet from Valentine. They still have a special place in my heart. Bullet, they were like the first band I became really obsessed with, really a huge fan of. They were like the band I aspired to be, and I wanted to play like, and I wanted to write music like, and just like everything was like my life surrounded around the band Bullet for My Valentine. They just, something about them was just different than all the other bands that were around at the time, and I think still to this day, like something about like their riffs and melodies and their hooks. It's just every song is different, or like at least when the Poison first came out, the first three albums I would say, Poison, Screaming Fire, and Fever, they're all different. Like you can't, none of the songs really copy each other. There may be like a riff here or two are very similar, like Suffocating, Under Words of Sorrow, and Dignity have like the same kind of riffs going on, but overall in the spectrum of the songs, they're all different, and yet they're all cohesive and work together. And there's just something about Bullet that it drove me and inspired me. And at the same time, I was also listening to Linkin Park, which was my first band, the first band I started listening to. Linkin Park, we all love Linkin Park. We know why. Chester was an amazing talent. May he rest in peace. The music that they made, from Hybrid Theory to Meteora, which is my favorite, Minutes to Midnight, even when they changed their sound by the time they got to A Thousand Suns, they were still, like, I still enjoyed the music, and people have their opinions, and they're entitled to their opinions, but as just music itself and not just what people want them to be, I think they like are still top. They have it. They still have it. They can write good songs and still bring the emotion because it's still true to themselves. It's what they wanted, and they didn't let anyone hold them back, even if they knew that the fans were gonna be upset over it. They didn't hold back. They went full force with it, and I applaud them for that. And it's not easy. I know it's not gonna be easy because you're gonna alienate people, but Linkin Park has always been authentic to me. They always wanted to be themselves, and if that's what they want to do, then that's what they're gonna do, and I respect them for that. And still to this day, especially now that they have their new singer, who I think is an amazing talent as well. Never got to see Linkin Park live, but at least with the new singer, at least I can still probably have a chance to at least see Linkin Park, and even though it's not with Chester, I could still see what they have to bring and what the future holds for them. It's from there, I'll try to get through it, but Blink-182 was like the next band I was into. That's what got me into punk music. I remember finding one of their songs in a video. It was All the Small Things, and it was very catchy, and I was like, this band's really catchy. And as I got deeper into their music, I saw how like funny they were, how charismatic they were, and then that dove into a whole like deep dive into that pop punk genre and listening to all these old songs I used to hear when I was a kid. And I was like, oh wow, like these songs are like, this is like a different feeling. It's like different feeling of music, like punk music. Like I know about it, but like I never really got into it. But like something about it just drives me into it. And from there, at the same time I was listening to Blink-182, I was slowly getting into Breaking Benjamin. It took time, but eventually around when I got into Blink around like 8th grade, like the end of 8th grade, so I was like 14. And Breaking Benjamin was slowly making its way into me, and by the time I reached like the end of my junior year, so I was about 17, that's when I got into Breaking Benjamin. Breaking Benjamin has always been a great band. They're always good. They always put out good music. I've always been a fan of them, and even when I took little breaks from them, like every time I would listen back to them, their songs still hit the same. I just Breaking Benjamin is just one of those bands I feel like you just can't hate. Everyone has their haters, but like I can't find a reason why you would want to hate this band. Breaking Benjamin just writes really good music, really good hooks, really good choruses, and they're doing their thing. They're a rock band, a heavy rock band that wants to make music for everyone, and I think they're very successful at it, and they rightfully deserve so. After Breaking Benjamin, I got into a little huge deep dive into I'm gonna lump it into progressive instrumental music, because that's what was getting popular at the time around 2015. My first exposure was with math rock, which I'll make another separate video about math rock. But math rock found me at like the perfect time. I was trying to find something different, or like I found it through a video game. So this band called Minus the Bear, I found them through Rocksmith 2014 edition. I think I bought it for myself for Christmas with the Christmas money, and I remember like I was just like, I saw some songs I like, Avenged Sevenfold and other bands, but I wanted to try a different song that I never heard. I was like, okay, let's scroll through the songs, and I heard Minus the Bear's song Cold Company, and I was like, oh, what's this? Let me check it out. It sounds pretty cool from like the preview. I gotta say that the tapping and all that, I was not efficient at it at all. But like, this song is hard, but like it sounds cool, and I want to be able to play it. So I kept getting into it, and I was like, what is this music? I've never heard anything like this. And then they're not 100% math, but they have a heavy math influence. They're more like an indie alternative rock band with a heavy math influence. I'll make a deeper dive video, but that's how I got into math rock. And then from math rock, I delved into progressive music and instrumental music all the way through like my early 20s. By the time I was like 21, I got a job at Hot Topic. Well, I got into Dance Gavin Dance at some point because a buddy of mine told me about them. I'll make a whole other video too, but I got into Dance Gavin Dance and then got the job at Hot Topic, and from there I went back to my roots and listening to like emo music and all those bands from the 2000s that like I never let myself really enjoy because I thought it was wrong. But looking back at it, I felt if I liked it, I shouldn't have been ashamed. But listening back and really feeling nostalgic for it and getting back into that music. Dance Gavin Dance was like the biggest one at the time, but like slowly I was getting back into all the old bands because Dance Gavin Dance and then Periphery too. Periphery was another big band for me. Listening to how different like the instrumental music can be, but at a point I was just like go back to my roots, take a little break from it, and going back to my roots, I would listen to like Bullet and Breaking Benjamin and all that again. From then on, I've just been riding the wave of just like the nostalgia, but slowly I've been like getting back into like what I've been doing before with like the instrumental music, because now that's also nostalgia too now, and kind of just finding ways to like make it, how to combine both, I guess, or just find inspiration from any of it. Just because music, there's a lot of music I've lived the whole life. I'm 30. I just want to be able to enjoy what I do. Lots of things have been going on in my life where I've had to like take a step back in music, but I am working on becoming a teacher for music, so I still have that going, that I can continue to give back for music and teach the next generation of musicians, because I feel like I have something to offer through my experiences with music and what I've learned and how I've grown, what you can do with it. And the way it's affected, influenced, and inspired me is that it has made me become and realize, what kind of person, who I want to be, who I am, what I know I am capable of, and how I can see certain skills and aspects in music affect other parts of my life, and how I can use my creative thinking in other fields other than music, and how it can just take me to somewhere else that you just can't. Like, music really does bring people together. It brings me to a better place, and I just want to be able to give that back for anyone that wants to get into music and aspire to be a musician and do anything with music. So that's my Let's Talk with music. We'll see what else holds in the future, but for now, that's it, and I'll be seeing you soon. Peace out.